What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. It is Friday morning. Apologies for the lack of videos. Again, I've been in Las Vegas. I just got back yesterday, but I wanted to get a video up today. I know we've been doing kind of restarting our sort of off-season preview series. There's been some Rostermania. I don't really want to call it news. I want to say it's more reports and rumors. Let's talk about it, what it means, where things are at with sort of Rostermania right now, and kind of walk you through some of the scenarios that a few of the top teams are contemplating because they're kind of holding all the cards at the moment for the reason that things have been really slow. All right, so I want to start with this tweet because I think this is sort of like PSA one-on-one education about what's going on in a week like this, and also just to kind of key on keywords I'm going to use throughout like videos like this over the next few weeks. I want you guys to understand the difference between report and a rumor, because I think some people are kind of confusing things right now. They're hearing things or seeing things on Twitter. They're assuming it's fact, and it's really just kind of like not. A report is like something that Jacob runs, for example, like this article on Drazah we'll get to in a second, but Optic Texas holding talks with Envoy and Drazah, right? So then that Jake has gone and gotten multiple sources, and he knows for a fact that this meeting has happened. Like that is, you know, and sometimes people would dispute reports. They say it's false, whatever. But I think for like media consumption, we can pretty much assume that these things are true. And then there's rumors, right? This is like Twitter accounts that post, you know, things that are hearing behind the scenes. It's not double sourced. It's just here are talks or conversations behind the scenes. So example of that is, and we'll get to what this is in a minute, the sort of what's going on with the Toronto situation. It's all rumors. There's no full reports out there. It's a lot of lack of clarity, and we'll get to that in a minute, but that's a rumor. And I think it's very important that we distinguish both, because I have seen people in the last like 48 hours on Reddit assuming that things are true and they're not, but also they're taking a look at reports and they're kind of like taking it a step too far and not really looking at the face value of what it means, or actually like reading the article and just understanding kind of where it's at. So let's dive in. All right. So basically where we're at in Rostermania, I'm going to kind of summarize where we're at, and then we're going to kind of dive in. Right now, what is the reason that things are slow is because LA Thieves, FaZe, and Optic, who are, I would say, the three major destinations. Thieves kind of behind FaZe and Optic due to the full free agent situation, are kind of contemplating their options right now. They haven't identified the roster they want, and they're all kind of targeting the same group of players for the most part. So the players I'm going to discuss at length in this video are Envoy, Drazah, Pred, and he's not on this sheet yet, but we're going to talk about Scrappy and the whole Toronto situation, because I think those are the four key players right now in Rostermania, and why we haven't seen a lot of movement with the top teams and the other teams. We're waiting on the top teams to make a decision. So let's first talk about Drazah and Envoy. So as you probably have seen this Jacob Hale article from a couple days ago, Optic Texas have talked with Envoy and Drazah. I'm going to be honest, this is important news, but just to add more context to this, like, I'm not surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised to hear that Drazah and Envoy have talked to pretty much every top team in the game, even sort of mid-tier teams like a Boston, for example. I'm assuming that they're just taking conversations right now and is kind of trying to feel out, okay, do I have control of the roster? Who would I play with in this situation? What's the money I'm looking at? Do I have to move? All these conversations are going on. Now, in context to Envoy and Drazah, let's take a look at what I think are probably their two top options. It's probably gonna be FaZe or Optic. So Optic right now, I think it's probably likely that Kyler is gone. I would say more likely than not, Hook is not going to be on the Optic Texas roster this season, barring some crazy stuff. Dan Ghosty, I would say, is probably closer to 50-50. So for now, let's go ahead and remove him from that. We're going to remove Ender from there. And I'm going to add Dashy here, because I just expect him not to go anywhere. So I think it's Shotzi and Dashy in two spots and a sub. On the FaZe side, right, I expect Nick Classy to come back as a sub. I don't really see why they wouldn't. And I think for now, we're going to remove Austin from here. But just like with Dan Ghosty, I can see him coming back with this team. So I think between like Drazah, Envoy, Pred, and again, we'll talk about the Toronto situation in a second, they're all basically looking at one spot on FaZe and two spots on Optic Texas. And we're not going to talk at length about LA Thieves because some of these players are coming from Thieves. But I think at the moment, let's just assume it's a full squad wipe scenario. They're starting fresh because not really sure who's going to come back, what people are doing at the moment. So look, on the face of the Optic Texas maybe being like this team, right? Maybe the team is, you know, Drazah and Envoy. I really like this team. I've been seeing a lot of chatter on Reddit and on Twitter about whether this team is good. I think this team would be great. I think this is a great team for Optic. I think the roles make a lot of sense. You've Shotzi and Envoy as your subs. They're both really good at kind of being aggressive players, hitting routes. I think Envoy will probably do a little bit more of the dirty work if someone's got to kind of soak heal when people are bumping. If someone's got to run bomb, like Envoy will do that and kind of free up Ant. I like the Dashi Drazah AR combo. It is a lot of flexibility there, speed at times, S&D skill. I like where this roster's ability is across all three game modes and kind of the pace that they would play at. Maybe like my only concern with the Drazah Envoy stuff is more around Drazah. He obviously brings a lot of attention to himself. He's got kind of a unique personality, which I personally like. I think it's hilarious. And I do think that some of that will bring some banter or whatever. But as far as like this team being a grinder squad and trying to get better, I think this is a really good move for Optic if they go down this route. And personally, I think it's tough for Dan Ghosty, who I think played good enough to hold down a spot on this team. But I can completely understand why Optic Texas will want to go in this direction. Potentially. But that being said, right, I can also see, you know, Drazah and Envoy being on FaZe, and we haven't heard a lot about FaZe rumors. I've asked the FaZe team, and I've gotten the polite version of like F off whenever I talk to the guys on the team. They're kind of doing their own business, but I could see, you know, either Drazah or Envoy going here, right? Role wise, if Drazah joins, nothing really changes. MC Celium kind of moves to more of a full-time AR role. Again, same thing as Optic, like it all kind of falls into place, makes sense. Grinder squad. Envoy would be a little bit more interesting. Someone would have to run a flex between Simp and Envoy as far as if it's similar to this year, mostly running an AR this season, but I think both players can do it, and I think they'd be able to figure it out, and they'd be an amazing team. So I think that I could see Drazah and Envoy going to either one of these squads. And I think before we get to kind of Pred part of this, a question I get a lot about FaZe versus Optic is like, how do you decide what's the pitch? I'm gonna try and summarize that now in sort of the best way possible, but if someone's on either org and kind of doesn't agree with what I said, let me know in a DM and we could, you know. I think the Optic pitch is always very simple, right? There's a place you can come to win, a place you can come to build your brand. We've seen a number of players go through sort of the Optic machine, and a lot of them have gone to either successful careers in Call of Duty, outside of Call of Duty as being streamers, entertainers. Like they take care of you. If you want to pursue hobbies, like they get that taken care of. Like they are a family and they treat it that way. I would say, you know, sort of if I were one of those players and I'm asking, you know, questions, there has been a lack of winning at Optic Texas, right? You know, they have that one event win last season at Major 1, but this year, last year, combined with the teams they've had, only that one win. I know FaZe sort of similar. One win as well, but we'll get to sort of what I think the response is in a minute. But like outside of the other years, they still haven't gotten that champs ring in a long time in Optic. They are always been around the top team, but they've never been like the best team in the game for a consistent entire period of a game. So maybe if you're Drazah or Envoy, you can come there and finally bring that to Optic Texas. But to be fair to Drazah and Envoy, I think, and my response to that is even when they were on LA Thieves, they couldn't do that. They had stretches where they were very good. Last year when they won back-to-back, this year when they won, like they've been good teams, but they haven't, you know, been that sort of dynasty squad. And I think that's kind of FaZe's pitch, right? If you're Drazah and Envoy, our team has been great for pretty much the entire length of the CDL. We've been either the first or second best team. We've won one championship as far as a ring goes. We've won multiple events. We won one this year. We didn't win last year, but I guess we can kind of maybe blame that on Alec if we wanted to. And then Cold War was obviously a successful year. Modern Warfare 2019, successful year. You're coming here, you're being the last piece of the puzzle for us to go from being like the best team or one of the best teams all year, and then whatever happens to champs, to being like a dynasty squad. You being the next part of what people have been talking about with us as a dynasty team. My only counter to sort of the FaZe thing is, well, you don't really have that sort of massive audience that Optic does. So if I turn my stream on, I'm going to get maybe 5,000 subs instead of 10,000 subs. That's sort of the difference, I think, in pitch. I think if you want to win, FaZe is probably your best option. Fans may be upset at what I'm saying, but I'm just going to be kind of factual. If you want to win, your best chance is probably with FaZe over Optic. If you want to like build your brand, think about yourself as a business, Optic's probably the better choice. And so I think that calculus is going to be really key for players like Drazah and Envoy on if they're sticking together and they're going to Optic, or if they're breaking apart and one's going to one or the other, another team. All right, so the next player that we need to talk about is Pred. This is an interesting one. So I think he's in a similar boat as Drazah and Envoy, talking to all the teams. I just don't think that FaZe or Optic have really decided who they want to target yet. So everybody's kind of in limbo. But I can see Pred on both squads, right? If Pred goes here, personally, I think it's over for everybody. Like, I think if Pred goes to FaZe, you know, obviously probably Simp has to run a flex, but I think they figure it out, and this team is just, man, I just tough to beat this team with the amount of skill they would have. I think the interesting question is if Pred goes here, because I don't know if you keep Ghosty, like, are you going to try and maybe do like a combination of Pred and Drazah? So it's like Shotzi, Dashi, Pred, and Drazah. It's an interesting question for Optic what they would do if they get Pred over Envoy. Again, I was cautioning people for like 5 or 6 months in my chat in these videos. Guys, the Optic Pred thing is not a lock. It's going to have twists and turns, but every fan in my Twitch chat was like, oh, Optic Pred's going to happen right after Champs. They're going to announce him. It's going to be a done deal. It's an open conversation. I think the Thieves players being available is making everybody think. And I think Pred would be a good fit for Optic. I think him and Ant would need to figure out some of the sub-duo stuff. Just, I think the same thing that FaZe would have as well. But it's not a lock right now because Drazah and Envoy are available. And I think if you're FaZe or Optic or even like a Toronto top team, Thieves, like just a lot of players to contemplate on what you want to bring in. They all have their pros and cons. So I think as far as the LA Thieves, Seattle players, and I think Dante's also, Sib is also sort of factoring in this, but I just don't think he's in this level of conversation. He may attach himself to one of these players sort of as things firm up, but I think Drazah, Envoy, Pred, as far as free agents go, I think are where a lot of the thinking is right now when I kind of ask around and see what people are thinking about. And obviously Optics also, you know, out there kind of thinking about it as well. So, all right, now we get to the part that I think is really, really slowing things down, which is this Toronto situation. So this kind of broke kind of in the last day or so. It was a late Wednesday night, and I think a lot of people have been kind of digging in yesterday on this, that Toronto Ultra might be blowing up its team. I'm a little confused by this one because I thought Toronto was really good this season. They won an event. Yes, they got absolutely body slammed in the finals, like bad, but I thought they were a good team, and running some version of it back was a smart play because they've been solid all year. And I'm a little shocked that it might be a blowed up situation. And I think what is very interesting about this, you know, situation, when we talk about sort of where the team's contract statuses are at, let's take a look here. You know, these are our contract status as of last year. So you've got a lot of players on a 2+1. Hixie would be the player that's available, I believe, for option. If we take a look, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So he's a player that would have, the team would have to make a decision on now, but everybody else is still under contract. And so if they're looking to offload Kleenex and Insight and keep Scrap and maybe Hixie, I'm probably pissed if I'm Scrap because I just signed this mega deal. I thought I was going to be a top team for at least my run here. And now I'm going to be in sort of a rebuilding situation when I take a look at, again, we go back to sort of this sheet, right? Like FaZe and Optic have spots, and I can't participate in that because I'm stuck on Toronto because I signed this big deal. So I think what is right now a key storyline to watch is what is Scrap going to do about this Toronto situation. Again, there's all rumors. I don't know if any of this is super mega true. People of Toronto, if you want to hit me up and kind of tell your side story here, like if you're Scrap's agent, like let me know. But as far as I can tell from the chatter behind the scene, it sounds like there's a lot of decisions on Toronto going on about 1 or 2 players leaving this roster. And if Scrap is unhappy, I could see a conversation on his end of like, is my future here? Just sell me on so I can go play somewhere else. And you guys can kind of fully commit to the rebuild. Because if Scrap hits the market, and we just talked about Drazah, Envoy, and Pred, bro. Like if we put Scrap on FaZe, I gotta obviously spell it correctly. Dead. It's over. It's literally over if this happens. Like, I don't know what to tell y'all about like other teams in the league, but like this squad cannot be allowed to form. I'm sorry, because like this is probably the best version of a team that FaZe can build. You got MC running main, you got Scrap being your flex, and Simp and Abizi as your subs, and there's just insane pace on this team, insane S&D skill. They're going to be really good at respawn. Control, I think this would finally kind of round out their control game. I know they weren't great at control this year. I think this would make them great, amazing at control, because I think Scrap for Austin kind of solves a lot of the problems they have. And they would just be really difficult to beat. And then even then, like let's say Scrap goes to Optic. Let's assume it's like Scrap and then like Envoy and Pred. Like there's another disgusting super team that could be formed here. Now, the only thing I will say about this situation is that Toronto would need to let Scrap go. Someone have to buy him out. It would have to be a reasonable buyout price. Like I just don't see FaZe or Optic with Drazah, Envoy, Pred out there, you know, paying some $500,000 or plus buyout fee for Scrap. So this one's going to get very interesting and ugly. And I expect the reason things have slowed down from when I've talked to people behind the scenes, is people kind of monitoring the Toronto situation and trying to find out more of what's going on, what the status is before they decide if they're going to commit to sort of their target list. Again, I'm speaking more to like FaZe, Optic, and Thieves. They want to see if someone like Scrap is available, because I think he would probably be number one on everybody's list if I had to make a guess. That's really where Rostermania is at right now. Obviously, Kleenex, Insight could be big players in this. I could see them going to someone like Thieves, for example, if they're leaving Toronto. But at the moment, I think the combination of teams deciding of which LA Thieves and or Pred player they want to pick up on their team, plus the Toronto situation, you have a moment where FaZe and Optic and Thieves are sitting here contemplating. They're not in a rush to make a decision on who they want to team with. And they haven't yet like informed everybody of, hey, here's our squad. We're going to start negotiating. So maybe we'll get some movement in the next 24 to 48 hours. But that is where things stand right now. All right, so a lot of information. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the video. Like, if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. We're right into Rostermania season, so I think we're going to keep giving you guys updates here. And as always, guys, we will see you on the next one.